Way here from Brisbane, and someone else that we've got here that's made a bit of a trek as well, and he's probably spoken to some of you already. I actually had him on the air with me last week at the station I work for, so he was wonderful to speak to, and that is Daniel Witthaus, and Daniel's representing anti-homophobia bullying basically, and trying to educate people along those lines. So anti-homophobia educator, I guess that's what we call you, correct? Well, Daniel can let you know more about himself as we welcome him.
I would love to back up what everyone else has had to say and to thank the organisers and the locals for not only putting on this event but also for welcoming people like myself and Donna into Mount Isa. So thank you very much for that. It's no surprise to me today that there are this amount of people here that you've been able to pull this together. That's no surprise to me given that I've been here before. But in 2010, when I jumped into a truck to drive around to regional, rural and remote areas, people begged me not to come to Mount Isa. They told me not to come here. When I jumped in my truck, and I say I jumped in my truck because when you do gay stuff in the bush, everyone assumes you're doing it with a bus with a shoe on top, because it's Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. But what I wanted to do was to go to community by community and to challenge homophobia one cuppa at a time, pretty much like Donna just said then. People expected three things to happen to me when I came to places like Mount Isa, Broken Hill, Kalgoorlie, the Pilbara. They expected that I would be run out of town by people like yourselves, sometimes with pitchforks. They thought that my truck or me would be damaged or harmed in any way. They thought that no one would want to talk to me. They wouldn't talk to me in all of these rural places. But what I found was something different. I was warmly welcomed into places like Mount Isa. It all actually started here at the PCYC when Gina Scott offered me a cup of homemade pea and ham soup. And when you've been on the road, you've been driving for something like 20,000 kilometres, that really makes a difference. But from that point on, Mount Isa opened its arms to me. My truck, which is an openly gay truck called Bruce, he wasn't damaged at all, and neither was I. And the other thing was that people thought that I wouldn't have anyone to talk to, but I ran out of time to talk to all the people in town who were willing to have a cuppa with me. And I guess that's the story that I wanted to talk about today, the story of Mount Isa. So many times in country Australia, people assume a lot of things. So they overestimate homophobia and the part it has to play in this community. We can't stand up to it. We're just one voice. There's nothing that we can do. All of you here today have proven that to be wrong. People also underestimate. I'm only one person. I underestimate what it is that I can do in the face of all of this. Or they underestimate, so lots of people who go, why would you do something in Mount Isa? The community's not ready. The community can't handle it. Again, let's look around today. In terms of why it's so important that we have events like today, we are talking about marriage equality, and I will talk about the importance of that in rural communities. But at the moment, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex young people are given a forced choice. And that forced choice is, you can stay in your community and stay in the closet, or you can be gay and go to the big smoke. That's what everyone believes. That's the message that we send young people. And it's great that, since I've been here in Mount Isa, I've heard stories about where that's not the case, where young people do feel that they can come out. And why that's important is that when I drive around the country talking to rural communities, what they say is they're worried about two things. One is, they're saying we want young people to feel like they can be themselves and we want them to stay here. We want them to stay in places like Mount Isa. The other thing they talk about is rural youth suicide. Young people leaving to the big smoke because they can't be themselves, and rural youth suicide I know that Mount Isa knows about because you've all been telling me about it over the last days that I've been here. This is very real for you. The great thing about the story of Mount Isa is about what you can do, about the connections that you make. The great story about Mount Isa is community. This event could not have happened if there wasn't a sense of community, if everyone didn't pull their weight. So if I look around there, of all the people who have helped out and brought this together, that's the story of community. And whilst people might go, okay, well, you know, so what, there's community, it's important because people this week have said to me, I'm so sick of this place being associated only with two things. One, mining. The other, this guy in a very big hat. We want everyone from outside of Mount Isa to know that there is so much more to this community, there's so much more that we do with each other. And the difference that you can make is great. I found in every nook and cranny, in every part of this country, that LGBTI people existed. So people often found that hard to believe. They'd go, oh, surely there's no gays in Mount Isa, surely there's no gays in the Pilbara, surely there's no gays in remote Indigenous communities. We know that these people exist. But the difference is whether these people thrived and got a fair go, or whether they didn't get along and they were just barely surviving. The difference between those people who got a fair go and who thrived and who had a great time in their country communities and those who didn't, was that they had supportive people around them. I've found that if young people especially in country areas have 5 people around them who support them, then pretty much they're going to be doing okay. You all can be one of those supportive people. I have no doubt because you're here, you're already playing that part as being one of those supportive people to LGBTI people in Mount Isa. And for that I thank you. For that I really do. People ask me if it's better these days, and I'm going to wrap up fairly soon. People ask me, is it better these days? Is it better for gay and lesbian people? What I can say is there's never been a better time in country Australia to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender or intersex. There's never been a better time. There's more friendliness there. But even though that's potential and people say I'm friendly and you know I have these positive attitudes and you know bring it on and I'm more than happy to support them, we find that intent doesn't translate into action. So people say I'm gay and lesbian friendly, but they don't necessarily talk about it. They don't have the conversations. They don't challenge when people say that's so gay. And that's the difference that can be made. If progress is that we only support the people who we like, and when it's convenient, then we've got a long way to go with what we can do with progress, especially in places like this. Why is this so important? I'll leave you on this note, and that was I had a chance to have conversations with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of LGBTI young people around this country. And what I asked them all, the very last question I asked them was, what are your hopes for the future? All of them were universal in saying, I want to live in an Australia where I can hold the hand of the person that I love without fear or concern for my safety. We're here today for marriage equality. We're here today to talk about how important that is. This is more than just legislation change. This is more than just the educational programs. I did some training with local teachers and health professionals. I'm going into some schools over the next few days. It's more than that. It's that when we create a climate where people can be themselves and hold their hands and people don't ridicule them, joke, bash, whatever that might be, that's when we know that we've made it. So we've got a way to go, but this is so important, the fact that we have this Family Fun Day today. If you doubt that there's anything that you can do, I have a website called That's So Gay, and I've written a book called Beyond That's So Gay. If you doubt that there's anything that you can do to challenge and interrupt homophobia and better support people, then please go to that website. Otherwise, collar me after this chat, after this speech. I'm more than happy to have a chat because, like Donna said, my way of change is by challenging homophobia one cuppa at a time, conversations with everyday people, because that is what's going to make a difference in a place like Mount Isa. Again, I cannot congratulate you enough. Thank you so much to the organisers.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And once again, Donna and Daniel, thank you for making your way here from Brisbane. I know it's a bit of a trek to get out to Mount Isa, but it's such an important message to share. So, on a final note, Felicity Lowe, Alvin Harbour, Sergeant Gina Scott. We also had Christy from P-Flag, the local branch, speak earlier, and Donna and Daniel. Thank you so much for getting up and having a chat to everyone. And I'm sure that any of those people are open for conversation now as well, and the local people as well. If there's maybe later on after today that you might like to talk to them, I'm sure they're more than open to that. Thank you, everyone.